Good evening and welcome to the Norfolk Public Schools Business Meeting for Wednesday, June 26, 2024. I call this meeting to order. A quorum is present to conduct business of the school board. Ms. Lynch, please call the roll.
Ms. Basine?
Here.
Mr. Clanton?
Present.
Mr. Jordan?
Here.
Dr. Martin?
Present.
Ms. Stone?
Here.
Ms. Buffalo?
Present. And as you see, Ms. Lynch is sitting in for Ms. Tanner today, so please be kind to Ms. Lynch, please. All right. We're going to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Satter, would you please do the honors?
Good evening. We request that all cell phones and pagers to be turned off or to vibrate during the course of the meeting. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 3.04. May I have a motion to adopt the school board business meeting agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the school board business agenda.
May I have a second?
Second.
It's been first by Mr. Clanton and second by Ms. Stone to approve.
Dr. Martin.
I'm sorry, Dr. Martin. To approve the business agenda. Is there any question?
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yes.
under the consent agenda, I would like to ask if we would have the Title I and Title II applications be placed under decision discussion.
You said title plans, I'm sorry,
Title I and Title II.
Title II under discussion.
5.03. All right, so, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make an amendment to my motion then. I approve the agenda with the amendment of adding discussion item 5.03, Title I and II.
Okay, may I have a second for that amended motion?
Dr. Martin says second.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Any discussion? Ms. Lynch, please call the roll.
Ms. Basine?
Here.
Mr. Clanton?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Stone?
Here. Aye.
Ms. Buffalo?
Aye. Now may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'm sorry, the agenda.
As amended.
That's what we just.
Yep, Madam Chair, I went ahead and amended it as a maker, so we're
I
good.
just want to make sure we're
just-
good. Okay. So we're going to move on to 3.05, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Birdsong.
Good evening, Chair Buffalo, members of the board, administration. Let me try that again. Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, whatever. Good day, good day, good day. It's a wonderful day. Again, good evening, Chair Buffalo, members of the board, the administration, our visitors, our community members. Thank you again for attending our board meeting this evening. We have lots to share with you about all of the wonderful accomplishments of our children of Norfolk Public Schools, and our video will display that. There are a couple of things I want to point out to you in the video. First of all, we have one of our very own, Chelsea McGarity, affectionately known as Charity McGarity, who was the winner of one of the DOE's grants for a homegrown teacher. Chelsea grew up in Norfolk Public Schools. She graduated from Norfolk Public Schools. Both of her parents, mother and father, work for Norfolk Public Schools. One is a retiree, and she was awarded recently a $7,500 grant, and we're very, very proud of Miss McGarity and all that she's done for Norfolk Public Schools and our children. We also will highlight our graduations. We had all of our high schools who had very successful graduations this year, and I'm pleased to announce that we had over $60 million worth of scholarships for our children, and so we are certainly celebrating that. So without further ado, please share the video.
Fourth graders from Lindenwood and James Monroe Elementary toured Signature Aviation at the Norfolk International Airport to get a first-hand look at how airplanes help us learn more about hurricanes. Hurricane experts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the U.S. Air Force showed off their planes and spoke about flying into hurricanes. With other emergency services and vehicles on site, students were also introduced to a wide variety of possible future careers.
So they've got the big 2 planes here that they can go through, and then we've also got some local jurisdictions who send out their command vehicles. What's neat about this opportunity is the kids get to actually touch and play with some of the things here. So it's a hands-on experience so they can understand what it takes to keep them safe and who is keeping them safe.
We were on a tour for airplanes, and it taught us some more really cool facts about airplanes and hurricanes. They fly straight into them. It would be probably very scary and cool at the same time.
I hope that they actually just get inspired and motivated to see some new jobs and new careers and fascinating thinking that they could go into, especially into the field of meteorology.
Approximately 130 middle schoolers from across Norfolk Public Schools spent 36 weeks learning how to sail and about our local environment as part of the Sail Nauticus program. This unique after-school activity teaches water safety and sailing, but students gained other valuable skills as well.
We run a sailing program that helps middle school students learn STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, of course. And they go out with our volunteers along with our sailing instructors, and they get to learn all about the Elizabeth River, the environment that we work in, and they learn communication, leadership, and teamwork.
On this day, students enjoyed taking their family members out on the boats to show them how much they've learned.
It was fun and peaceful, and it was just a nice ride. I feel like I did good because everybody was safe and they came back safe.
Oh, it was very relaxing and comfortable, and they did a marvelous job with taking us out, steering the boat, and bringing us back in safe. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for them to be able to learn how to be able to go on a boat on the water.
I like being able to go out in the water after school and just have some time to relax. Today I just like to be out in the sun and having a good time with Mom.
Students in Maury High School's gardening club got their hands dirty while getting a first-hand look at how nature works. This unique after-school activity has students learning everything from weeding and planting to working with bees and extracting honey. Although this is a robust garden club, it's the bees that draw the most attention. After spending months tending to the beehives, they pulled the frames where the honey is stored, and 2 weeks later, they extracted it.
So far, we're just extracting honey, getting rid of the top layer of the comb so we can just spin it around, getting the honey to go down the walls, and then we extract it into that, straining the spare parts that got onto it.
So we're extracting the honey from the combs to make honey that we can actually eat and put into bottles to give to people. It's really fun. I love that it's one of the things that we all hold, so it's everywhere near us, and especially when we go to the farmer's market and we see how much it costs, but now we know why.
For students in the club, this was an opportunity for them to discover where food comes from and to give up some of their own time to help cultivate this special garden.
I think it does two things. One, it's giving, again, that value and meaning that they're having an opportunity to give back, and I think that gives a lot of purpose. When you're able to give and you're not necessarily getting anything out of it, because a lot of it is the work, the harvest comes later, but I think that's the second part of it, is that there is a harvest, that they're learning to work for an outcome, and we're making an impact, we're making a change. So it makes me feel tremendous.
Some of our youngest students showed off their skills at Berkeley Campostella Early Childhood Center's Technology Day. The pre-kindergartners at this Apple Distinguished School revealed how they solve problems using coding, Bebot, and Spiro.
It's all about thinking. We want to build the critical thinking skills. And when you problem solve, is it right? Is it wrong? What's a better choice? So that also builds that for early learning and ongoing skills when they leave Berkeley. It's all about problem solving. What am I going to do to solve the problem?
Fans packed the stands at Norview for the NPS Band Brawl.
The first ever Norfolk Public Schools Band Brawl. It's the first time in a long time that all the bands have been active.
Booker T, The Power of Norfolk. Grammy, The Distant Galaxy. Lake Taylor, the Marching Titans. Maury, the Marching Commodores. And Norview, the sound of the 757. Although it was a battle, it was for a good cause.
The true nature of this event is to raise money for all of the programs and advocate for our programs in front of an audience of our potential students, current students, and supporters.
For me, this is extremely exciting. I know how exciting the rivalries can be between the schools, all of us in one house, and to be competitive, but also just share our musical talents.
NPS bands are giving students an outlet to express themselves.
It's definitely important to give them not only an avenue of music, but to let them know that there are other high schools that are working, if not harder, but just as hard as them to represent the school. And not just for the school aspect, but it's important to give them an avenue of music so that they can expand outside high school.
Band sizes took a hit after the pandemic and are now starting to rebuild.
I think our biggest obstacle in terms of numbers is that a lot of people don't know that the bands are active now. And we are all kind of in this like rebuilding, rebranding stages, just doing what we can to get out in the community. And I think that will really help.
NPS Band Brawl showed how committed the students and band directors are and why these events are needed.
So I think we have, here in Norfolk, I can say we have directors that really care about the program and the student body, and those students are attracted to that, and it makes them want to be a part of the organizations.
These events are important for, number one, for publicity for our students, to make all the hard work that they do, to make it worth it, to give them a platform to perform and demonstrate their talents and their skills. Also to continue to support the arts, to bring awareness and to let people know that, hey, we need some funds, we need some help. These students need their bellies filled sometimes, and they need new instruments and supplies and things like that that can maximize their resources and their experiences.
38 seniors in Maury High School's Medical and Health Specialties program were honored at a special graduation ceremony on the campus of Eastern Virginia Medical School. These graduates earned over $3 million in scholarship funds. This year's keynote speaker, a 2013 Maury graduate who's on a full scholarship to EVMS, delivered a powerful message to the graduates.
My message is one of perseverance, but really just understanding that failure is not the end of the road. In life, not everything's perfect. There's a lot of twists and turns. Don't be so consumed with, your own life and live for something greater than yourself. Live for something beyond yourself.
After student awards and teacher recognitions, students received their medals to be worn at their high school graduation, signifying the end of their 4-year journey through the program.
I've learned a lot through this program. I've learned anatomy. I learned how to tape ankles, learned chemistry. It just reinforced my love for medicine even more, and it drives me further to achieve my dreams to be a gastroenterologist,
I think it's taught me time management with some extra expectations. I think it's well prepared me for college in the classes, and I'm very appreciative for all the teachers and other students and staff that helped me get to where I am, and my parents as well, and it feels great.
More than 1,500 seniors from all 5 of our high schools crossed the stage and celebrated their graduation at Chartway Arena on the campus of Old Dominion University. Valedictorians and salutatorians from each school delivered inspiring speeches, and then students lined up to hear their names called. Thousands of family members and friends were in attendance to enthusiastically applaud this outstanding group of graduates. This year's senior class earned over $60 million in scholarship funds. Congratulations to the class of 2024. Norfolk Public Schools' graduating class of 2024 included the Adult Education Services and ISAEP Programs Recognition Ceremony held at Granby High School. These programs are designed to offer non-traditional paths to earn a high school diploma. 45 diplomas were awarded during this year's ceremony. Congratulations to the graduates.
Senior Daniel Smith's Granby High School career came to a close, and he went out on a high note. He helped the Comets reach the regional playoffs And he was also named Atlantic Orthopedic Specialist Student Athlete of the Month.
I'm just really thankful. I appreciate you guys paying attention and following our season. I couldn't really have done it without the help of my parents or teammates or coaches. They've all been a massive influence on my baseball career.
Smith was the top pitcher for the Comets this season, while also earning a 4.7 grade point average in the classroom. Smith will attend Davidson College in the fall.
Daniel's a great kid, student athlete to the finest. You know, he handles his business in the classroom and as always does his thing on the field. I've had the pleasure of coaching Daniel for, I want to say 6, 7, maybe even 8 years. Had him all 4 years here at Granby. He's a pleasure to be around. Great teammate. This is a good way to close out his senior season, to be recognized as Athlete of the Month here. It's a lot of talented kids in Norfolk, so to be recognized as one of the top, that's an honor.
'83 retirees who provided over 1,700 years of service to Norfolk Public Schools were celebrated aboard a special luncheon cruise. These retirees were recognized with certificates, and they had the chance to have a little fun while on board the ship. Many of them shared how thankful they were for their time with NPS and what they would miss the most.
The kids. Yeah, just working with, I've taught 1st through 4th grade, and just missing the different grade levels and watching them grow and turn into neat individuals, how they've changed from the beginning of school until the end of school.
Making changes that better improve the school divisions, public safety, and for our students. That's what I enjoy. And building relationships with the folks I work with.
I enjoyed my time here. I was spending all the time in the military and then coming back and still be able to serve my country by serving the Norfolk Public School System. I appreciate it. So thank you, Norfolk Public Schools, for allowing me to be here.
You know, it's bittersweet. If I had it my way, I would stay. Due to health reasons, I have to go, but I'm not far away. So I'm just thankful to be here and to have had this opportunity to work with the wonderful community and all the schools in Norfolk schools.
With the school year winding down, administrators visited schools throughout the division to present outstanding teachers with Rockstar Awards. This award recognizes exceptional teachers for excellent attendance or reaching at least 95% student participation on their STAR literacy assessments. Both teachers and their students were surprised and grateful for the recognition.
I think it's very nice, especially to make the staff feel welcomed and feel as part of the family. I appreciate that. I feel like I'm making a difference. I like kids. I like being around kids. I like helping them grow. And I find myself that I grow myself as well, so along with them.
It was very shocking. I think my kids got a kick out of it, and it really meant a lot to me that somebody noticed. As you can see, we're painting right now, and they still kind of know what to do. I think the more we show up, the more consistency the students have.
Ms. Bell is a good teacher, so she deserves an award because she does. She teaches us a lot. I'm glad that she comes and shows up just for us so she can teach us art.
Congratulations to Chelsea McGarity of Larry Moore Elementary School, who received the 2024 the Virginia Department of Education Hometown Teacher Grant. The 5th grade teacher was awarded a $7,500 stipend for getting free or reduced lunch as a Norfolk Public Schools student, graduating from an NPS high school, as well as a Virginia university, and becoming a teacher at NPS immediately following college graduation.
I had applied forever ago. One of my co-teacher, my special ed co-teacher, told me about it. Didn't think anything of it, didn't think anything would happen of it, so it's like huge surprise. I was joking with her, we signed up for summer school together, and I was like, well, I'm quitting summer school now, I don't need that anymore. But I do, I'll still work summer school. But yeah, so it's huge surprise, very exciting. It'll be really helpful. Like I just said, not on camera, but I have a baby on the way, so like super helpful with that. So we're all really excited.
Over 24 volunteers from Capital Group partnered with Junior Achievement of Greater Hampton Roads to teach students at Suburban Park Elementary about money. They took over every classroom in the building, using fun games and exercises to help students gain a better understanding of finances.
Dream Achievement, we actually exist to about like financial literacy, workplace readiness, and entrepreneurship. And we have programs from kindergarten through 5th grade. So we're taking over the classes. Every class is getting programming. These amazing volunteers from Capital Group are here. They're actually delivering the kits and stuff, delivering the programming to all the kids.
This 5th grade class focused on what it takes to market and sell a product.
They're determining what product they want to sell and they're putting a price point on it. And then the next part of the exercise is that we're going to go in and we're going to do some negotiating and see if their price points are too high or too low. But teaching them when they're marketing how to be able to best do that.
It's fun. We get to decide what we're selling and also that we're having competition about what we're selling in the future. If we don't know, then we'll never be able to figure it out. It'll be very hard to figure out how we're going to sell things, how we're going to make money, and other things.
For more stories and information about what's happening in Norfolk Public Schools, visit the NPS homepage and click on the YouTube link.
Okay. Great things are happening in Norfolk Public Schools. We're going to move on to 3.06 citizen comments. Ms. Lynch.
Madam Chairwoman, for today's citizen comments, we have 6 speakers. Today's speakers signed up for the public comments before the start of today's business meeting. If you would like to provide public comments, you are required to state the agenda items or topic you are addressing prior to providing your public comments at this meeting. When your name is called, please come forward to the speaker's podium. State your name and whether you have a child in Norfolk Public Schools or if you are employed by the district, and state your agenda item. One person is to speak at a time. If you are representing a group, state the group name. You may ask your group members to stand in place to be recognized. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes. A timer is set with an alarm that will signify the end of your speaking time. State your position and give facts and other relevant data. Avoid saying anything that identifies students or personnel information about individual employees. Personnel, disciplinary, and confidential matters may be addressed to the school board directly via email at schoolboard@npsk12.com. Comments should be addressed to the board and not addressed to an individual member. School board members do not respond to public comments at the time they are given. Any written statements or supporting materials should be given to the clerk. Chairwoman Buffalo, our first speaker today is Darlin Stanford, followed by Corinthia PQ. Darlin Stanford, are you present?
Ms. Lynch, is your microphone on?
Yes, it is.
It's on. Oh, okay. Oh.
I didn't know anything about signing up to speak or anything like that. And there wasn't a sign or anything out in the lobby saying that this is the procedure, but this is my first time.
Okay, we'll take care of you. We're accommodating. Yeah, we're going to take care of you. Can you? Okay. Okay, can you come to the dais and provide Dr. Martin with your name, and we'll get it to Ms. Lynch? She's on the end. Appreciate you. Ms. Lynch, can you repeat those names one more time for me?
Darlin Stanford.
And what is Darling Stanford?
What is your topic?
And the second name, Ms. Lynch?
Corinthia PQ.
Corinthian
Okay.
PQ.
Good evening. I am representing the Unified Booker T. Washington High School alumni and friends. Our chairperson is Yvonne Wagner. Please stand. And the rest of the coalition, would you please stand? And this letter is drafted from all of us. Thank you. The Unified Booker T. Washington High School Alumni and Friends is a coalition of Booker T. alumni, parents, friends, and community leaders. We are writing to express our continual disappointment and increasing concerns about the inadequacies and poor conditions regarding the air quality, the asbestos and mold, the heating system, and the overall deterioration of Booker T. Washington High School. These are serious problems related to the condition of the school. The incompletion of these projects, as well as issues such as deteriorating bathrooms, have not been adequately addressed. Based on these conditions, we are requesting that a new facility for Booker T. Washington be built. This would address our concerns and would also allow the legacy of Booker T to continue into the 21st century as a state-of-the-art educational facility that has provided quality education for over 100 years. The first letter was sent to the school board in 2018 regarding the aforementioned conditions. It appears to us that our concerns are being ignored, and we feel that we need to make sure that equity is given to all schools across the district. A major point of contention is some schools have been allotted or allocated over $180 million for a new school, and only $40 million has been allotted to Booker T for partial repairs that have not been completed. We requested a copy of the report regarding the asbestos and mold and the air quality in the school that was completed by EPA and OSHA. On January 25th, 2024, is when we requested it, when we met with Carlos Clanton, Vice Chair. We also requested a certification report for mold during the meeting. We still have not received those reports. Additionally, we are requesting a status report on the completion of repairs and an updated feasibility study that addresses the mission of the STEAM program and the need for a new building. One feasibility study was completed to determine if we would become a STEAM school. I'm going to jump because I'm almost out of time. We had a meeting with Dr. Birdsong on March 2024 to express our concerns. And one thing, we asked a question about the asbestos and mold, and we were told that staff members, that they said, one of the staff members said, well, it could be dirt, that they had had situations with that. And we want to know, has the mold in our school been identified as dirt? Does the person making the comment have the qualifications or expertise to determine that? Are we putting Band-Aids on it? Is it time to build a new school? We feel that these four conditions.
Ma'am, your time has expired, but we will accept the writing if you will give it to Ms. Lynch for the record.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Lynch, you want to call the next speakers?
Our next speaker is Yvonne Wagner, then followed by Vivian Moore Hester. Monroe Hester.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Birdsong, Board Chairman Buffalo, and other members of the board. I am Yvonne Wagner, a proud graduate, 1969 graduate of Norfolk Public Schools. And my resident is 1100 Merrimack Avenue, and I am a Broad Creek resident. My previous speaker actually mentioned several of the things that I will be talking about, but I do have some statistics I want to share with you all. Indoor science research has stated that at least 7,000 people in the U.S. have died from mold and infection. That number is up from 450 in 1969. I'm going to skip over to asbestos. 39,000 related diseases of people that have died from asbestos every year. And almost 1/3 of the schools in the U.S., teachers and staff, but children are at risk for asbestos. Why are we coming up with this? Well, I first thought about coming here just telling everybody a piece of my mind, but I said a prayer and I said, I'll tell you like I tell my kids, you just better be glad that I know Jesus. So I'm going to just start with this. This didn't just pop out of the sky. Teachers gave me a call and said one of the workers from Norfolk Public Schools shared with them that there was asbestos in the building. I called a couple of the school board members. They came, met with us, and said that there was asbestos in the building. But they also said that we would have documentation to prove that that things were as they should be from OSHA and from EPA. Once we met with them, we did not get the documentation. We met with Dr. Birdsong, and we do appreciate the time that you spent with us. And from that meeting, we had things said to us like, well, everybody has mold. Even mold is in your house. And asbestos is everywhere. You can stop at a stoplight, and you can have asbestos. Those things were unacceptable, and they made us feel like we were just crazy. We were just stupid. But from that meeting, we did not resolve anything. We are, and I'm going to go to my end asking, we've asked for renovations. It didn't work. They put a new roof on the building. The roof had already fallen in before the roof had been completed. And also, once we did our research, we found out that the roofing company had already been dissolved and filed bankruptcy. So just to end everything, we as the alumni, as I looked at the history of what was going on, it was just amazing to see that in 1964, we're right back where we started. The question was, should we renovate Booker T or should we build another Booker T? Well, I'm here to say that the answer for this is, let's build another Booker T. We are asking for equity, and we will continue our mission until we get what we deserve, equity for all schools. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, everyone. Ms. Buffalo, members of the board, and Dr. Birdsong. My name is Vivian Monroe Hester. I grew up in Norfolk. I was educated in Norfolk. I worked 35 years in Norfolk, and I love Norfolk's children, but I have some issues. I'm here just to give a little short history. My speakers before have given you an overview of where we are, but let's go back and find out what's really happening here. Booker T. Washington High School was, of course, as you know, one of two high schools, black high schools left in the state of Virginia. So we're definitely not going to let just anything happen. We marched in the 60s, and we needed a new building. We did get a building, and but we found that our history was discarded. All the pictures, all the awards, all of the icons that we used to hold the school together was discarded. No one made an effort to even tell us what was going on. Over the past years, we have watched other schools be renovated a couple of times, new buildings, but we've seen nothing happening at Booker T. Washington High School that is sufficient. We have seen our students bust away from our communities. We have kids in Compostela and in parts of Berkeley who go all the way to Lake Taylor when Booker T. Washington High School is right there. In the past 15 to 20 years, our community has been coming to this board asking for equity, and we have not received it. The response that we get is usually not much. The last meeting we had with the leaders of the school district, we were told that things were going to change, but we never get a timeline. We never get a program to tell us steps that are going to be happening. We have asked for curriculum to be updated, and hopefully we were told it will happen in September, and we're looking forward to that. But as a community, we are looking for the equity that is awarded other schools. We want to know the funding of each of the high schools so that we'll see where the money's going. We are respectfully asking that you present us with the information that we've asked within the next 10 days. And I have here petitions signed by citizens of Norfolk asking that this happens. And I would like to end by giving this to the board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. And Ms. Lynch will take that and make it part of the record.
Sorry?
Ms. Lynch will take that and make it part of the record.
Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker at this time is Jackie Glass.
Okay, we're going to go in order, those who came, but we'll get to you, sir. Delegate Glass? If Delegate Glass says you can come to the podium, you can come now, and she will follow you. Thank you.
You know, I'm not as eloquent as everybody else in here.
Okay, we're all different. You may
Nams
start.
Point.
You may start your comments.
I'm Terry Rayfield Holmes. I'm from Nams Point. I only knew about Booker T as a child. I didn't know about Maury, Granville, Lake Taylor. My elders sung me songs about Booker T. And it's not the one, and when children hear about Booker T, they think we're the bookers, we're boogers, but we're not. Most of us are African American. We grew up, that's the only school we had. It's the only school I knew about. I lied to get in there. I caught the bus. I walked from 42nd Street to catch the bus to cross town to get off on Princess Anne Road just to go to Booker T. I was not going to graduate from Moore because I didn't care nothing about Matthew Fontaine Moore. But I do care about Booker Taliaferro Washington. And I know what he stands for. It ain't just Booker T, it's Booker Taliaferro Washington. It hurts me to see my school depreciating out there. Any type of business that you run, the school system is a business. It has depreciation expenses. It has time limits where things wear out. Things need to be painted, cleaned thoroughly. When the pandemic hit, everybody should have pitched in and did the pandemic cleanup. And then you got schools that are graduating hundreds of students, and Booker T graduated 80. When I heard that, I was appalled. I graduated early. I graduated in the 11th grade. I was too smart. I was too confident. I had too much integrity, and I didn't have nowhere to live. I was living in Lafayette Shores for $99 a month, and $99 down and $99 a month. I could live. My mother was an addict. I became one. I'm clean and sober today. I got my degree from Norfolk State University. It only took me 22 years. I studied entrepreneurship. I am an entrepreneur. The kids are being taught how to work instead of how to dream, come up with ideas. You know, don't teach me how to do a job. I know how to do that. I've never had one. I've had careers.
Thank you, sir.
Someone else has to.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, superintendent. My name is Jackie Glass. I'm the parent of a recent graduate of Maury High School and a rising 8th grader in Norfolk Public Schools. And I also represent the 93rd District of the House of Delegates for Norfolk. Why am I here? I am here because the appointed superintendent that you all have has chosen not to meet with our delegation. Legislators who simply want to understand how we can be more effective partners, address challenges, as well as celebrate the successes we just talked about. As one of the roughly 25% of elected officials in Norfolk with children in NPS, I have a personal stake in this. Our schools' success are crucial to our city's success. And I am acutely aware of how what happens in our schools translates to our communities, and what happens in our communities translates to our schools. And as a parent and elected official, I am worried by the things that have been shown to me over the past couple years. My team and I spent countless hours last summer, instead of campaigning, recruiting friends and neighbors to substitute teach, reviewing NPS financials, analyzing board documents, building our own databases to understand absenteeism, SOL scores, behavior, and vacancies, met with SRO officers, parents, educators, community members. And the communication that I've received as a delegate leads me strongly to really believe what I've been hearing in the community is that NPS leadership is selectively out of touch and has their head in the sand. This belief is reinforced by the actions and inactions sometimes of this very board. While I know firsthand that we are asked to do so much with so little to solve really big problems, I also know that I believe the cyberbullying, I believe the hate crimes, I believe the safety concerns that the teachers have. I believe that a lot of these things have been verified, but often folks have felt like they have been dismissed, and I agree with them. I know that we can do better because Lurchmont and Linwood exist in this very district, so I have a request. I ask that as a parent that we work towards rebuilding the educational foundation. I appeal to you, a specific board member, as you were crucial in the dismantling of it. Over 10 community organizations and programs have come to me wanting to invest human capital and capital into our schools. They need a way. I urge you to work with my team and I and work with the rest of the legislators to figure out how we can make sure that you all are able to use the automatic reversion of funds that you see from unpaid teacher salaries. We want to help you do that. Lastly, I know that you all are limited on how much you can meet with us. I ask you to invite the state electeds to your combined board meeting with the city so that we can be a part of the conversations and doing better. Gratitude and thank you all for your service.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Lynch, do you have others?
Yes, one final speaker, Delise Jones.
Delise Jones. Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I don't have anything prepared, but I just want to say I'm here to show support for my fellow Booker T alumni. I'm a class of 75. My class, this little history lesson, my class was the first class to graduate from the new Booker T. And in 1971, when I was a freshman, my class and all of Booker T marched and walked out for 3 weeks because they wanted to tear Booker T down and change the name to Washington High and take off the Booker T. And we marched for 3 weeks to make sure that didn't happen. That's how we got the new school. And I just want to say, I can't believe 53 years later, we're back here. That's ridiculous. Booker T should not be in the condition it's in, and we should not be here trying to beg y'all to get our school right. Booker T is a historical institution, and I feel like we need to keep it that way. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for everyone who came to the podium to speak. We're now going to move on to agenda item 3.07, approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a first by Dr. Martin and second by Mr. Clanton. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Lynch, please call the roll.
Ms. Basine?
Aye.
Mr. Clanton?
Aye.
Dr. Gabriel. Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Dr. Martin.
Aye.
Ms. Stone.
Aye.
And Ms. Buffalo.
Aye. We're going to move on to 5.01, monthly financial report. Dr. Birdsong.
Good evening. Again, Chair Buffalo. Our Chief Finance Officer, Cheryl Spivey, will approach the podium for the report.
Good evening, Chair Buffalo, Vice Chair Gabriel, Dr. Birdsong, and members of the school board. We have completed 11 months of the fiscal year. I've been here a year looking at efficiencies in reporting and listening to your questions. As you may have noticed, I modified the report this month with the intent of making it, one, shorter, easier to read, focus on the areas that you're interested in, and I hope better suited to meet your needs.
Ms. Spivey, let's pause for 1 second. We don't want to make sure we get the right report on the screen.
No.
Are you speaking?
We're looking at, that's the consent agenda upload?
Yeah. Go, Ms. Lynch, go down to 5.01.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And if
There we go.
Go down where we can, go to the point that we can see the numbers. Just a little bit more. Thank you. And I'd like your feedback. On the highlights, this first slide is the general fund revenues. To point out some differences in this slide from prior months, this slide includes the additional $5.3 million appropriated state funds that the school board approved on November 29th of 2023 and Norfolk City Council approved last month. So you can, so there is an increase in the budget. Just as a reminder, that $5.3 million was utilized. $4 million of it was used in December for a one-time bonus for our employees, and $1.2 million was used to supplement special education and instructional services for speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and other related services. Okay. Also on this report, near in the bottom section, second line of the bottom section, it shows the textbook fund transfer. This was a question that came up at last month's business meeting. And I think as it was, the way it was reported last month, that one column showed a transfer and one column showed fund balance. To better understand this, the textbook fund was a separate fund. And in this fiscal year 24, that fund was combined into the general operating fund. So, so it's kind of both, but really it's fund balance that was sitting in the textbook fund because those funds came from the state for textbooks, and it's being used for textbooks in this this budget. So hopefully that answers the confusion that we had on the report last month. Another thing I wanted to point out is every year we have encumbrances where we've incurred expenditures through a PO process to purchase goods and services, and sometimes by the end of the year we haven't completed those goods and services, which that's called purchase order encumbrances. Those encumbrances that are true encumbrances roll over to the next fiscal year, and with those comes the budget from the previous fiscal year that funded those encumbrances. And on the revenue, Ms. Lynch, if you'll go back to where we were, on the, yes, thank you. So the line, the fund balances from the fund balance for prior year encumbrances, that's what that is. And those expenditures related to those encumbrances are included in the expenditures on the financial statements, on the expenditure financial statements. Okay. Going to the next page, to the expenditures. So this, in previous months, this slide has been reported as a table, which I guess as an accountant I found hard to read, but it's now more as a financial statement format. Note that it includes expenditures that were recorded as of June 16th of 2024. The most significant expenditures we'll see between now and fiscal year end, and fiscal year end is tomorrow, will be the payroll that was paid last week, as well as salaries and expenditures that are incurred between last week and the end of the fiscal year. Those will be the largest expenditures. And then any other expenditures that are incurred between the date of this report and June 30th that have not been invoiced. And it's not infrequent that that we don't that we have goods or services expended in June that don't get billed until July or August. So so these will change throughout that period. Okay, and as we've talked about in recent months, we have had some expenditures throughout the year that were came out to be higher. The actual expenditures were higher than what the budget was when it was developed last year. Most significantly, just as a reminder, those are sped costs for purchase services and regional programs, as well as public transportation, purchase services, and insurance, and also, as shown on this report, beginning with the last payroll that's in this report, salaries and wages went over the amount that was budgeted. As you probably recall, we do both budget and project vacancy savings, which we work into the budget when we develop it. And the purpose of having budget savings, of anticipating what those savings may be, is it allows us to budget for other things so that we can get closer to the amount of the full budget to spend the full budget for our children, our students. And while we can do a very good job, a good job of projecting vacancy savings, we also have to show in the budget where we expect them to be at that time. That is we're less accurate on where those costs will be. So now that we're getting to the end of the fiscal year, looking at this report, you can notice that that there are some programs that the salaries and benefits are under budgeted, and some that they are over budgeted. You have more budget. For that reason, at year end, we do transfers to move the money to where the expenditures actually occurred. Let's see. Okay, so as of June 16th, this report, expenditures were $367.7 million of the $409.9 million budget. So at this point in time, actual revenues and expenditures are within $4 million of being equal. So very, very different than a year ago. We, Ms. Lynch, if you'll go to the last slide in that it shows the transfers. So, so this is what we call our year-end budgeting transfers. As you can see, most of those lines are employee benefits and salaries moving from one place to another. One thing this depicts is we have said, you know, throughout the year that for special education that it was the vacancies that were causing our purchase services to be so much, you know, because we couldn't hire the people, so we had to purchase their services. That's reflected in this budget transfer where we have the additional money going into purchase services and regional programs and coming out of salaries and benefits. And then the other big area where we had more expenditures higher than what we had anticipated was in pupil transportation, and there were other programs that were able to cover those overages in, and so the ones at the top of the page, the increases, those are the ones that the programs that are receiving additional money, and the decrease are the programs that had the additional money, and this transfer was made today. So, Ms. Buffalo, that concludes my report. I'll be happy to take questions or
Okay,
comments.
school board members, you heard the report. Are there any questions? Ms. Basine?
Yes.
And then Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Ms. Spivey. And you started to do exactly what I was hoping you would do in walking through this format of the monthly financial report so that I understand, you know, what I'm looking at and how we're ending the year financially. So if you could just bear with me, I have a couple of questions, and I want to, again, be sure that I understand what I'm looking at. So on this, on these tables of expenditures by function and program, so starting on page 2, where it says available budget. So let's take the program classroom instruction, for instance. It says, if I'm reading this correctly, available in the budget is 16.7 million. Is that correct?
That's right, at this point in time.
So that's how much has been unspent.
That's correct.
Okay. So following that line of questioning, then going all the way to the end, we have, hold on. Am I understanding this correctly, that there is roughly 35 million in unspent funds?
That is correct at this
Okay.
point in time.
Okay. So can you differentiate how this is different from what we've seen in previous monthly financial reports where we haven't seen that level of unspent funds in the previous reporting cycles? Or maybe I missed it.
It was, I think that's one of the reasons I did the report this way. It was harder to see in the pivot table to me than seeing it with this layout.
Okay.
But there's been a difference because as the year goes by, we of course spend more, and I pointed out that there's still another payroll, and then any amounts that are in the first July payroll that relate back to June, those get accounted for in June.
Okay. And do you have a projected amount, like what you anticipate the amount will be?
The The best I could, where my projection is now is it's less than 10 million between the difference between what we expect to come in and what we expect expenditures to be.
Oh, the difference, okay. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna transition to these budget transfers and try to relate what you've just explained in the expenditure reporting. So since, I believe, last July, August through May, we had no budget transfers that were listed in the monthly financial report.
Right.
So these are all ones that occurred in June, or I guess this is May's, but as of June 16th, is that correct?
These are the budget, okay, first, we budget at a very high level. The city budgets our budget as one amount. So to be in compliance with the budget, and you budget and the school board budgets the amount in 5 categories. And until this most recent payroll was posted, we were within budget.
Okay. All right, I guess I'm still not, we might have to continue this conversation because I'm not
So the purpose, the thing is, we could have budget transfers every month, but money we move to one may, as we go through the year, may go the other direction. Does that make sense?
Okay. I guess because it's been such a shift from what we've seen in the last few years, where we've seen budget transfers 50,000 or more be shared with the board every month, and then now to have such a what looks like a long list with large amounts of money over 50,000. And with questions that have been asked, about the budget transfers over the course of the last year, I was just curious how this list became to be.
And one thing, and this is feedback that looking for. By waiting until any of those large categories needed a budget transfer, we were able to show more distinctly where the actual expenditures were being incurred different than the budget. So we could make those budget transfers throughout the year. If
okay.
But up until the most recent payroll, there were not those overages at the higher levels than there are today.
Okay, so what was different about the payroll this period?
Well, we're closer to the end of the year.
Oh, okay, so that's what you mean, the total, okay. All right. Okay, I would, just as a follow-up, I know you don't have it now, but as a follow-up, I would like to receive, the dates of when these transfers occurred to kind of align with.
They were all done this week.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
so that was.
So what you were seeing was
all done this
actually
week.
what was
Okay.
in the financial system.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you're helping me understand how the budget
Ms.
transfers.
Basim, Dr. Burson has a comment.
I'd like to clarify, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So based upon what you're saying, because I think the question is essentially about if there were other transfers made, 50,000 or more, before tonight.
No. Right.
We have not presented any to the board.
Right.
None have been made until this financial reporting period.
Okay, that's what
So
I
I
was
want to
asking.
make that very clear.
Okay.
We have been
Yes,
very
thank you.
transparent with the board.
Okay. So that's what I was.
Right, yeah, and the transparency was for each month, we pointed out where we expected there would be problems.
Okay, thank you, because I wanted to be sure it says year-end budget transfers. I wanted to be sure it wasn't a culmination of
No.
the whole year. It was
No.
done in the last, okay. So, and my final, so I have questions about if there was funds left over in the different, programs. And some of those programs are also listed in these budget transfers here. I guess, like, for instance, I made a note. I think like Office of the Principal, that where we see budget transfers, if there was funds remaining in that program, why might we see a budget transfer for that particular program? And I would like to know that for special education, for the different categories here, if, I know you can't give it right now.
Well, as an example, I can talk to the Office of the Principal.
Okay.
So, looking at the report at this point in time, which is June 16th, was when the report was prepared.
Okay.
There's still available money in Office of the Principal.
Right.
I know, based on the amount of the payroll that will be paid out for that program, that it will go over budget after that payroll is posted.
Okay. And that's the case with the
And that's
other-
the way, yeah,
Okay.
so, that's
Okay.
the same across across each of the programs.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'll yield to my colleagues if they have any questions.
Mr. Jordan? And besides Mr. Jordan, is there anyone down this end?
I just wanted to clarify for my understanding, but
Okay, so we're going to go Mr. Jordan, then Ms. Stone.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the report design. I just want to acknowledge up front I'm learning it. So, I process a little slower. So I'm not quite sure I'm following. What occurred that is resulting in the salary and wages being over budget? I'm not sure I'm understanding what.
And in total, they're not over budget. But we budget, so last year when the budget was prepared, there was an estimate of what the savings would be based on the anticipated vacancies. And we do that because if we budgeted for every position to be filled, then every year we would end the year with not spending our full budget. So that was done last year, and based on what I'm projecting, overall salaries, wages, and benefits will still be slightly under what we budgeted, but in the individual programs, they're different. So for example, in classroom instruction, in the salaries, wages, and employee benefits, we expect that area, of course, that's our teacher vacancies, and everyone who works in the schools, that's their vacancy, those vacancies. Those vacancies are higher than what we projected them to be. But in areas, for instance, we look at visiting teachers and social workers, those, there were more of those positions filled than we budgeted to be filled. So, so in that area, those are going to be, for the size of that program, there's going to be significant overages when the last payroll is posted to these financials.
Okay, but I guess I'm trying to understand, what is it that we did? Because I thought a couple months ago, we were having conversations about the unexpended fund balance, and you were describing, at least as I understood it, how improved estimating was keeping the unexpended fund balance smaller than what it had been in the past.
And that is still true.
Okay, so is that the same estimating that also we're talking about now resulted in the salary and wages being over budget in some categories?
It's the same thing, but so we have to put those vacancy savings in some programs. So, so that's projecting, which actual position is not going to be filled. We don't do that. We make our best judgment of within these programs, what amount of salaries, benefits will not be needed because there will be vacancies there. And then at the end of the year, now we know where the vacancies were. So where we budgeted in one area that didn't have the vacancies, and then another area that had more than what we thought. It's just a moving of those funds between programs.
Generally speaking then, so last year, you're saying, if I understand correctly, with the monthly reports we were receiving last year that were showing the budget transfers, if we totaled up all the budget transfers from when we were doing it monthly,
Right.
would it still come out where was the total around $11 million like what we're seeing now?
It may not have been, because last year we ended up with a $31 million
Right.
overage.
Right.
So there was more unspent funds, between all of these programs. Now that we've budgeted tighter, it requires, when, there, even in programs last year that had overages, they still may not, have been over in total of the program, because there was a lot that hadn't been spent. The closer we come to budgeting what we actually spend, there will be differences between where the actual spending is.
On this report, you were referencing that we're probably within $4 million of unexpended funds. Is that correct?
Right now,
Right.
our expenditures are higher than our revenues, but we still have revenues that will be recorded.
On this report, what is the unexpended, at least what we used to call the unexpended fund balance? What is that?
About 4.4 million, and that is a line that I will add next year.
Okay, it's not,
next time.
okay.
So the actual revenues are 364 million, and the actual expenditures are 367 million.
Okay. Could you repeat that one more time, please?
As of June 16th of 2024, actual revenues were 364 million for the year, and actual expenditures are 367.7 million for the year.
Okay, got it.
So it's the third column of the expenditures is the actual, the third column of numbers.
I'm not sure I'm following. So I see under year-to-date expended, if I go all the way to the bottom, I see the 367.
Yes, 367 million,
And
680.
And what's the column that gives you the second number you were using?
The revenue number?
Not on there.
Yeah. The first page.
It's all the way on the top, yeah.
The year-to-date actual revenues?
364.
Yes, 364 million.
I think I had suggested maybe at one point we move this to a work session
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
trying to do it in a business meeting where we can
Yeah.
peel it back. I do have another specific question. I'm not sure I'm following the pupil transportation. issue or circumstance or realities that you were describing. So can you articulate again what the significant driver is with pupil transportation?
Yes, I can. As we mentioned last month, just as a reminder, for the fiscal year '24 budget, the original budget that was approved to go to City Council was based on the governor's budget. And between that time and the end of the fiscal year, the governor's budget had not been adopted. There was something called a skinny budget that was adopted. So we had to reduce our budget by, I don't have it here, but several $1 million, this year's budget. So the CFO, had to project where we may have those savings. And it appeared at the time that we would not be spending as much on bus drivers, and we would not be spending as much on fuel as we did. And so that's really a direct correlation of the budget for pupil transportation being cut. And the reality is that the expenditures went up or remained close to the same where we thought that they were going to decline.
So can you just describe internally, how does that work? If the folks in transportation originally provided information with their estimation of what was needed, and then someone else determined that what they estimated wasn't accurate, or wasn't, I guess, I don't know the right word to use, wasn't forecast what we thought.
Right.
And then we've come back at the end of the year and we found out that they were accurate. I'm not sure, how does that work, and why is it that it occurs at the end of the year and we wouldn't see adjustments prior to the end of the year?
There could have been adjustments, but now that we've gotten to this point in the year, we know, because we knew overall we were not going over budget. Now that we've gotten to this point at the end of the year, we know which areas weren't spending their budget. The other option is to estimate it and then estimate it in the wrong direction and then have to come back the next month with a different budget transfer.
I just generally speaking, I said at a meeting a couple months ago that the fact that it sounds like we are doing some things that are allowing for us not to be projecting large carry forward funds or unexpended funds, I think that it sounded like it was a good thing. And I think it still sounds like it's a good thing. But now I'm confused because I'm just confused about what shifted so much, and to what extent as a board member I can follow that, especially in the conversations we had about the money that the city recaptured, and then when the board is having budget discussions around total funds available and how we may reallocate one-time funds, it just feels like it's gotten more complicated to just kind of understand what we projected, what we budgeted, what we spent, where we are, and any recommendations that may come forward for adjusting the budget or modifying the budget if needed before we get to the end of the year and have $11 million in budget transfers.
Okay.
So that, I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just saying from a layman's perspective, it just feels like something's off, and I don't know how to articulate what that off piece may be. But I guess my last question for now is, had we continued to receive a report on transfers, if it was being done monthly, we would have seen these things in the report. What is it operationally that takes place that that if you have these negative balances in these categories, what is it that you all do internally that would not have triggered a transfer that would have showed up on the report?
The downside of doing it that way is where we would have transferred the money from would have been a guess. And so that program would have been limited in their spending. Right, because we would have moved money out of that program. By looking at the budget holistically, we're able to allow all the programs to serve our children as best as they can throughout the year, with us knowing that there are going to be savings.
Right, but if I'm in Department R,
Okay.
and I'm at negative $100, and I'm trying to have something paid or something, and I submit a request, what takes place operationally that allows me to get the money that I need in order to provide the services I want to provide if I'm already in the red?
Because
What is it that-
overall, the budget is not in the red.
No, I'm saying my category. If I'm in a category, if I'm in classroom instruction,
Right.
I'm making it up, I'm not looking at real numbers, and I'm at negative 100.
Right.
And you know that human resources is on the positive side. How did the money that, whatever I said my original department was, how did I get my money? In a transfer, you took it from one account and you moved it to me.
Right.
In this scenario where you didn't do the transfer, where did the money come from in order for me to pay for what I needed in my?
Because the money in that program had not yet been overspent.
Okay.
May I try?
Yes.
Okay. So for example, we have the Division of Academic Affairs. I'm just going to pick on Dr. Pohl really quickly. Say that we needed teachers to come in during the summer to help with curriculum development. And perhaps Mr. Brady had $20,000 left in contract services. This area falls under academic affairs. So while he may be in the negative for, available stipend funds, and I'm just, available stipend funds to provide to teachers to work during the summer. Overall, academic affairs may have had, for example, again, $100,000 left, but not in Mr. Brady's budget line, but in another budget line within his program. So therefore, his program is still in the black, although a line item within his program may be in the red. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be in the black because he's taking funding that's still available, that's unspent for whatever reason, and being able to provide it to another line
And
within that program.
Right. So in that example, then does Dr. Pohl as the chief then make the authorization and then it's like it's flagged, and then at the end of the year, you all add all this stuff up and transfer. I mean, that's the part I'm trying to.
Yeah.
As needs arise, that's when conversations are held. As the need arises. Like, there wouldn't be a need to talk about it until I need $20,000 to pay teachers during the summer, for example.
And the last report was the first report where we had a program need funds. And that was, you know, pupil transportation. That at that point, they needed funds.
At the point is
And,
being
and,
disclosed.
and so that's why we have made that transfer.
Was
And it's
my
because it's-
explanation acceptable, CFO? Was my explanation acceptable?
Yes, it was great.
All right.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
just-
you.
And I don't want to wait. Just so you know, I understand the concept. I guess from the board, I guess it's just I just feel like it's kind of new for us. At least it's new for me, because when I look at the $11 million in transfers, they're identified with line items. They're not rolled up under departments. So if we're getting monthly reports, and the monthly reports are broken down by line items, then when I'm looking at the reports that I receive, I'm looking at line items because that's what you've provided to me.
Right.
And so every time there's a monthly report, the first thing I do is I go and look for parentheses, because I want to try to understand why we have, you know, what's going on there. So, but it sounds like, well, maybe I shouldn't say this. It just kind of feels like to me that in this, at the end of the year, large transfer process, it doesn't allow for the board to really have to be able to ask valuable questions around where we are and why there may be circumstances that we're discussing now, and being able to ask of the administration, was there something that you need us to do? Is there something that's being indicated here? You know, even as we talk about pupil transportation, so, you know, hearing that they need money, when I know, at least as a board member, one of the frequent calls we always get is, where's the bus? And we know enough to say we have positions that are open. I wouldn't even know how to explain what I'm trying to digest now around whatever took place with what we estimated that resulted in these large numbers at this point in
But they're
time.
getting the money that they need.
Well, that's the good thing.
Nothing, you know, it hasn't slowed down the operations. The money, I mean, there was at no point have, the negatives have been presented, and so we knew where the negatives were, and on this transfer list, with the exception of the salaries and benefits, which we're now having to balance out, because some of the overages were in certain areas, and there were unders in the other areas. With the exception of those, the areas that are over budget, we've talked about. We've talked about the pupil transportation. We've talked about special ed.
Thank you.
Ms. Stone.
I think Ms. Spivey and Dr. Birdsong have better explained what I was going to try to clarify than I could put, but I put my hand up, so I'll at least say words. Without taking too much time, I know everyone's definitely ready for us to move on. But from what I am understanding, and I'm following pretty well, throughout the year, we've had these reports, and we've seen the overages and where we've had been behind. And I remember asking about pupil transportation, I believe, at our last work session, and making sure that that was something that was being considered. So I see how those are being reflected here. And so what I'm understanding is throughout the year, there are going to be some slight fluctuations. But as we get to the end of the year, we have a better idea of what the final projections are actually going to be, and that's where these fund transfers are coming in, because otherwise we would be asking these questions and having a very long meeting every month. So this way, we've seen the way the trends are going to go, and now that we're getting to the end of the year, we have a better idea of what our end budget will fully realize. And so those budget transfers are being done to rectify all of those things.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the monthly financial report?
I move to approve the monthly financial report. What do I want to say?
Subject to audit.
Subject to audit, yes.
May I have a second? I heard someone say second.
Seconded.
Okay, so motion made by Dr. Martin and seconded by Ms. Stone. Ms. Lynch, any other questions? I'm sorry, Ms. Basine?
I just wanted to state that I'm going to abstain for now because I need to process what I've heard and learned today, and so for now I need to digest.
No worries. Ms. Lynch, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Basine?
Abstain.
Mr. Clanton?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
I'm voting no only because I'm not sure I understand what I have in front of me. But I would like to recommend that, I don't know where the retreat agenda is, but I think it would be good for us to just have an understanding around the estimating that was described and what in the budget that we've approved, what have we done in that budget that, so we just understand where we are and where we're going moving forward. So I vote nay at this time.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Stone?
Aye.
Ms. Buffalo?
Aye. We will now move on to 5.02, Booker T. Washington High School update. Dr. Birdsong.
Thank you, Chair Buffalo. Dr. Pohl has already approached the podium, and he will be providing an update around the STEAM curriculum, which we will be implementing for school year 24-25 in the fall, and also some facilities updates. And hopefully we will be able to address a lot of the questions that were posed during the citizens' comments.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Ms. Buffalo, members of the board, and Dr. Birdsong. I'm here this evening to provide an update to the STEAM program implementation and on the facilities at Booker T. Washington, as Dr. Birdsong just said. With me tonight is the very proud principal, Mr. Dion Garner, who will be assisting with the presentation as well. We will begin with updates to the progress of the STEAM program. As a reminder to the community, during the May 17, 2023 school board meeting, the board voted to add a STEAM program alongside the already established Fine and Performing Arts program at Booker T. Washington High School. As a part of the motion, the board presented program offerings to include such as enhanced performance, visual multimedia arts, audio, visual, and communications technology, cybersecurity, entrepreneurship, and hospitality. The added programs are to begin being phased in with the 24-25 school year. Since the board made the decision to transition Booker T. Washington High School to a STEAM program, the administration began researching and planning a transition. This included beginning research on STEAM programming that was presented to the board and the community during the summer and fall of 2023. A STEAM committee was developed that included division-level leadership and school-level leadership, and meetings began in September of 2023 to plan for the transition. The team did further research on what would make a successful program, where were other successful STEAM schools, professional development needs, curriculum needs, and community surveys. Once Mr. Garner joined the team as the new principal, a building-level team of teachers was developed to further support the work of developing the STEAM program. The BTW STEAM team visited feeder middle schools to share about the program this enrollment season, hosted a STEAM fair for parents and rising ninth grade students to share in the excitement of the new program and all of the possibilities it will bring. The impact of STEAM as the program transitions to Booker T. Washington High School will focus on retooling the way education is approached for all students. The structure will focus on problem-based learning to create productive struggle for students, passion-based learning for students to focus on learning what they hold a high interest, and project-based learning to put their knowledge to the test with creating solutions. The program will build off of student career pathways, discussions, and lessons students have had through middle school into action. STEAM will also accentuate the work of the Visual and Performing Arts Academy, creating an even more robust educational opportunity for all students. This new program is set to lead the way for students to have increased opportunity for higher level classes and potential to graduate with an associate's degree from TCC prior to graduating from high school in 4 years. The planning team is working to create authentic and meaningful industry and career connections and experiences so all students leave ready to enlist, enroll, or be employable with a skill that supports a lifelong career. I'll now turn the presentation over to Mr. Garner so he can share about the school visits and the professional development.
Thank you, Dr. Pohl, and again to the members of the board, thank you so very much for the opportunity to present to you all. Select members of the Booker T. Washington High School STEAM team were afforded the opportunity to travel to Cleveland, Tennessee to participate in a site visit of their district STEAM work. Also, 3 members of the team attended the DO STEM conference at the National Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. This took place in April. The site visit to Walker Valley High School and Bradley Central High School allowed us to sit with key administrators that helped to build the STEAM model within their schools. We learned that in Tennessee, there's a statewide acknowledgement of a school's STEAM status, through a statewide application and approval process. Even though there is no comparable approval in the state of Virginia, their application has allowed Booker T. Washington High School to mirror some of those best practices to make sure that our work is aligned with national industry career clusters and state of Virginia SOLs. We found that in this work that we knew to be true, that STEAM is already happening at Booker T. Washington High School. It's more than just computers and technology mixed with a little bit of music and art. It is a school-wide integrated culture where everyone speaks a common language of career readiness within the school. We saw the students in their classes on these visits, and they were engaged in the 5 E's of inquiry-based learning: engaging, exploring, explaining, elaborating, and evaluating. This lets us know that every classroom on every hallway of Booker T. Washington High School has the potential and will have the common language and focus on learning as students explore these multiple pathways. Finally, the team was excited to see their freshman experience module. This allowed students the opportunity to enter the school fresh and new, explore their career pathway options, and then be ready to choose their intended career pathway and focus STEAM work in their sophomore year. Every student has a tangible post-secondary direction after graduation. That's the goal, and that will be the focus of our work. At Booker T. Washington High School, students will either enroll, enlist, or be employed following graduation. Here, these images show the Partnership and Enterprise Center in Cleveland County Schools, also known as the PI Center. This center is similar to Norfolk Public Schools NTC. It's the hub of the capstone work in all technology areas of STEAM. Students take advanced placement courses, dual enrollment courses, and internships throughout this center. This visit was ideal because it emphasized the importance of Booker T. Washington's desire to strengthen pathways and connections to both NTC and TCC for all students. The visit gave us the visual of the career pathway model featuring STEAM from the very beginning to the very end, which is graduation. The desire to attend the DO STEM conference came as an outgrowth of the need to see STEAM in action from the educator's perspective. Hands-on, problem-based learning activities that were suitable across the curriculum were on display. 2 of the 3 conference attendees were special education teachers from Booker T. Washington High School. They reported on the specially designed projects that would be easily transferable to Booker T. Washington High School for those students who require learning support. Through the work seen in this conference, we know that problem-based activities can be created for all grade levels and all student ability levels, and that's key for us. We saw demonstrations on the alignment between national career clusters and course sequences that we will be able to offer, the power of student-created portfolios, which we use to assess their progress throughout the programming, and they will get updated and strengthened each year for replicating learning. Finally, we saw the importance of hands-on learning and the realization of what we may already have available in our school district at Norfolk Public Schools. will be connected to STEAM and how these intentional works will surround the organization of the entire activity. The images here show some of the innovative student-centered projects that were on display as a part of the Do STEM conference in Dayton. The conference not only demonstrated the hands-on STEM-related modules, but gave credence to the history behind the work. This was important because it helps our teachers that are in non-STEAM courses in the core to infuse authentic STEAM-related history and background into the work of the mainstream core classroom without compromising SOL alignment and making it seem like a force fit. Thank you so much, and again, I'll turn it over to Dr. Pohl.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. All of the research, planning, visits, and professional development led to the creation of the STEAM retreat for the Booker T. Washington High School STEAM team. This 2.5-day retreat was held on campus at Old Dominion University. The agenda was developed and centered around the needs of the STEAM team. Time was spent with team members from curriculum instruction, career and technology education, professional learning, and other offices to offer additional supports. The STEAM team had discussions and learning around how to develop curriculum, how to integrate STEAM across all courses, creating a professional development plan to support 9th grade teachers throughout the year and prepare other teachers for future implementation years. A great deal of the work was spent around developing a Booker Prep freshman orientation course for students as an entry-level course allowing students opportunity to learn all aspects of STEAM and to fully develop their personal career pathways. The images shown here from the retreat with members of the BTWHS STEAM team learning, preparing, and creating a wide variety of experiences for students. Knowing the importance of continued professional development, the STEAM team worked to develop a plan that includes at least one STEAM school visit per year to expand their knowledge and to develop more partnerships with successful sites across the country, sending members of the faculty and staff to STEAM conferences for exposure to the latest best practices, doing on-site industry and career visits to have firsthand experiences of industry practices to integrate into the STEAM program, connecting with industry experts to be guest presenters for students, and continued teacher training and support throughout the year for the entire faculty and staff. The professional development will create a pathway for more successful curriculum development at the school level with the integration of STEAM across all subject areas. From the creation of the Booker Prep course mentioned earlier, to the strengthening the use of project-based assessments that support the shift in student learning towards critical thinking and life application. Curriculum that will integrate more guest speakers, field trips, and internships for students, and that leads to a more advanced placement and dual enrollment offerings earlier in a student's course pathway, allowing students to graduate with a tangible future pathway. The 6 career pathways with the highest student interest for rising 9th graders include cybersecurity, environmental technology, hospitality and tourism, human services, maritime and aerospace technology, and multimedia arts for commercial design. All of the pathways that are being developed for the STEAM program will connect to the 17 national career clusters, which will yield access to the increased funding, opportunities, certifications, and national recognition. Lastly, on the STEAM program, it's important to know what brings success. Over the course of this past year, the development of a STEAM rubric was started and is now being finalized by the Booker T. Washington STEAM team. This rubric is based on current research and best practices seen in other successful programs and will bring an additional focus to the program as the phased implementation continues over the next 4 years. As we know, for any school program to be successful, the facility has to be a solid foundation to support learning. The next few slides share previous projects and current projects taking place at Booker T. Washington High School to ensure the building supports a well-rounded education for all students. Since 2018, just shy of $1 million has been spent on items ranging from repairing and replacing the gymnasium sound system to athletic supports for baseball, softball, and football, to replacing the gymnasium bleachers and replacing some pipe insulation across the building. This amount does not include the cost of general maintenance to maintain the school facility on a day-to-day basis. And that holds true for all of the dollar amounts we're talking about. It's not the general maintenance day-to-day costs. Specifically in preparation for the Fine Arts program, the initial funds were spent to add needed equipment to support the graphics arts and theater production and to build a dance studio in the school. The remaining slides, school safety is also paramount in the budgeting process, and included in the window and doors replacement project is creating a vestibule in front of the building, so there's an added layer of security in the front doors. Additionally, a building access system with an entry code and key fob will be added to exterior doors for staff members to gain access without having a traditional key entry. Focusing on athletics, the City of Norfolk is continuing to install 6 new tennis courts with lighting. The gymnasium floor will be resurfaced within the NPS budget, and the recently passed NPS budget includes the upgrade to a turf football field. This totals just under $3 million. The majority of the work has been completed on the new roof replacement, with the final touches to follow the completion of the HVAC replacement. With a new roof, the ongoing water infiltration issues will be eliminated, the air quality will be improved, and the building will have an improved thermal resistance value, resulting in energy savings. The total cost of the new roof is just over $7 million. All exterior windows and select exterior doors are being replaced with more energy-efficient materials. Included in this work is the painting of all painted exterior surfaces, as well as power washing of the entire exterior of the building. The total cost of this project is just under $6 million. Continuing this summer and into the fall is an entire HVAC replacement project that includes architectural engineering work, replacing all HVAC equipment, electrical and gas line upgrades, ductwork, new ceiling grids and tiles, and new LED lighting throughout the building. The cost for this is just below $15 million. To support upgrades to the building, including the fire alarm system and communication systems, the electrical system also must be upgraded. This work supports integrating more power throughout the building to support instructional needs for the use of technology that's increased in the previous years. The total cost for this is just under $8.5 million. The last item on the list is refreshing and updating all of the restrooms. This includes replacing all the fixtures, partitions, tiling, and plumbing with a total cost of just over $4.5 million. Current spending through school year 2024, which includes the cost of the roof replacement, is at $8,072,875. Projected spending on the remaining projects taking place this summer and through school year 25 is $36,659,000, making a total spent or planned to be spent of $44,731,875. Please do note the balances on this presentation on this slide are different than the one posted because I had inverted the numbers from the anticipated to the total. So those numbers were just flip-flopped. My apologies for that. Thank you for allowing Mr. Garner and I the time to share about the STEAM and the facilities updates with you this evening, and we stand ready for questions you may have.
Board members, you've heard the report. Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Clanton.
Thank you, Dr. Pohl, for the presentation. We've heard a lot about Booker T tonight, and I definitely appreciate the passion about Booker T. But as board members, I know that we passed a resolution to move the STEAM program forward based on feedback that we received from the community, wanting something more robust beyond just the arts. So being able to find that combination and a lot of things that individuals have heard me consistently talk about, ensuring that we can meet the needs of all of our students. Everyone's not going to a 4-year college or even a 2-year, but making sure that we can meet the needs of the workforce that we need to prepare for the future. So I commend you for that. Principal Gardner, we welcome you. We know that you stepped in the middle of a year, and to hear that these things are happening, I'm appreciative of that. But there are a couple questions that I have, and I want to make sure that we bring clarity. And one of those things is I want to define a term that I've heard mentioned tonight, and that is the difference between equality and equity. As it's rightly known here in Norfolk Public Schools, we want to say equity for all. Equity is defining as this. Equity means everyone is provided specific resources they need to be successful. And I know that when we look at Booker T, and it hadn't been said here, but in 2021, we voted on a capital improvement plan. This school board did. That plan called for, being transparent, a couple things. A new Maury High School for a building that's 114 years old. Renovations to Booker T. Washington High School. A new Jaycox Elementary School, which in many cases, many individuals who attended Booker T. Washington High School went through Jaycox. A new Norview Elementary School. And it talked about also going forward to Granby Elementary. But also, I think in one of our work sessions here, I brought up the fact, and I asked the consultant about the needs that we need here in Norfolk Public Schools when it comes to capital improvement. And I had him repeat it because I wanted to make sure that I understood what he said. And that was that we have $500 million in unfunded capital improvement programs for our buildings within the school division. And for many years, Norfolk Public Schools only received $3 million for our physical structures. But as you can see, since 2018, we have been consistently, when it comes to Booker T. Washington, trying to move the needle, trying to right the things that had not happened in the past. And that takes funding, that takes resources, and it takes time. Because one of the other things that we didn't mention in here is the feasibility study. And the feasibility study talks about the physical structure and things that we can do to move the school forward. However, we needed to build the curriculum. And so I'm so excited to hear that you have Booker Prep because it's taking best practices that we've seen at the academies like at Hampton and the Ford Next Gen Foundation, which we know keep students in school, they graduate on time, and they are prepared and ready to go. But there are a couple things that were in here that I saw that were mentioned about mold, about asbestos. And if my understanding is here, we have a roof replacement, and even that. So the roof replacement will be completely finished by the time we put in all the HVAC units. My understanding, is that right?
So the roof replacement is fully complete except for the wraparound when they put the HVAC units on top.
Got it. And if I'm not mistaken, when we started this roof replacement about over a year ago, if y'all remember, we had some really bad rainstorms that came through. So the roof was already compromised as we were trying to fix it. So if you know anything, you put in kind of tarps to kind of work it through. So that's how we got some water and some other things in there. But this idea of the about mold, the old system was a closed circulation system, if I'm not mistaken, and so it was not allowing fresh air. And if anybody remember, with this thing called COVID that happened, and that we were trying to work on ensuring that fresh air. We were able to use ESSER dollars. Congressman Scott, we thank him for his efforts when he was serving as chair to get funding to localities, because there were studies that showed that when you have good fresh air coming into the classroom, students can learn better. So we move forward in using those funding, and I commend the administration for their creativity in being able to identify those funds so that we can address these issues. But we're getting new HVAC units, and that new HVAC unit, I do believe, is new ductwork. So that's kind of like what's going around here. I think also when I read in here, it says new tiles, ceiling tiles, and new LED lighting. We also talk about bathroom upgrades. I think I heard about that. That's coming. One of the things, and I will say that I personally was a little frustrated with, but I understood when I asked the question about, gosh, I wish we had something to be able to show. I get it. I've lived in Norfolk all my life, and I can never put myself in the shoes of those who have gone through the 1960s and forward. I get it. So many times and time again, we've been told things and then it doesn't show up. But I think that we have a commitment here to ensure that Booker T. Washington and all of our students in Norfolk Public Schools receive what they need. And right now, what we're saying, and what we voted on, was that we got a building that has good structure, a building that needs some tender loving care, that needs to have some things in address. And if anybody has driven by Booker T. Washington High School right now, you see boarded up windows, things being taken out, all the old things, a lot of work. This isn't just magic, this happened out of that. This was in the process. And we've got to trust the process and work together collaboratively to ensure we get what we need of our students. But Booker T's not the only school. We've got Lake Taylor High School getting the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. I look at the schools that are in the ward that I serve. I saw Willard that was there. I saw, Sherwood Forest had the same thing done. These are all dollars that we receive from the federal government, and as well as some one-time funding from the state. We had our state representative, Delegate Glass, here tonight. We got to continue to work together, because for the public needs to know that the state does not fund capital improvement. They barely fund the teachers and the staff members that we need inside of our buildings with SOQ funding. So I appreciate the City of Norfolk standing up and to support us, but we still got more work to do, okay? And so the last thing I just wanted to highlight in there, because I counted with all the numbers, I know you had 44 up there, but when I looked at the total spent in facilities, it was about 52, 031,875, somewhere around there. Equity does not mean that everybody gets the same thing. And I've heard it. I'm going to put it out there. But when we look at Norfolk Public Schools today, it is a majority-minority school division. It is not a school division of the past. And I know, and I won't speak from putting words in the mouths of my colleagues, but I know that those who care about children and care about our staff members, we want to do what's in the best interest of all of our students. The fact of the matter is that there's new Jaycox Elementary School. There's no new Norview Elementary School. And matter of fact, there hasn't been one shovel turn for Maury High School, for a building that's 114 years old, that's falling apart around the students. However, there's a considerable amount of work happening at Booker T. Washington right now, and I want to see more of it happen throughout our division, and I know that we're going through this robust discussion about realignment within our school division on how we can have savings, because I think the consultant told us that if we close 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and a high school, but nobody's made that decision. But we're trying to get the public's input, have this thing in here, and as I have said it before, we've got to walk and chew gum at the same time. Still be able to tackle some things here, but also look at the bigger things that's before us. But I appreciate you bringing this forward. We just cannot. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there, and I appreciate everyone who's come here today. I hope that this gives you some sense of where we're going, and that we can continue those lines of communication with community and along with the school division and the school board as members. We represent you. We want to do what's in the best interest for all of our students. And so, Madam Chair, I appreciate the opportunity just to share that and to clarify a couple of things there, but at no time would anybody intentionally ever put anybody in danger. And as an elected representative that represents my ward, if I knew anything like that, I'm going to raise it up. And so I appreciate the superintendent and her administrative team for having an entire meeting at Booker T. Washington High School to address those concerns. So a lot of those things weren't mentioned. There have been a lot of meetings going on. But I appreciate the fact that we have this here. It's open, isn't it transparent, and the public can see this here today. And let's continue the conversation and let's move things forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any other questions?
I did just have one.
Ms. Stone?
I do apologize for not bringing this up before so you could prepare. So if you need to come back to me, I completely understand because it just popped out to me right now. I was looking at Bradley County and Walker Valley High School, and their demographics and their economically disadvantaged population is very different than ours, especially the difference between Walker Valley High and Booker T. Washington. So I'm just curious what conversations you've had, because as we know, programs that work in such a different environment would work differently in the school that we're trying to retrofit and put. And so I absolutely love that research has gone into it. So I'm just curious what conversations you've had regarding that difference.
So I'll start and then I'll let Mr. Garner answer as well because he was on the visit. So when we started doing research on successful STEAM programs, we found hundreds of STEM programs, but we wanted to focus in on STEAM programs. And Tennessee, the state of Tennessee actually has a STEAM rubric in place, and you have to apply to be a STEAM high school. So looking at their high schools, when we were doing the research aspect of it, we knew they had a solid program in place, and that's where we need to start, with the solid programming. And Mr. Garner, if you want to expand on the visit and what you learned about it, that would be great.
And thank you for your question. Actually, Bradley Central High School does have a very similar demographic to Booker T. Washington. Having been there in
I'm sorry, that is under there. I saw Walker Valley and then my brain shut off. I do apologize.
Oh, not a problem.
Thank you.
But it gave us good comparison because we could see the different echelon of students and population. Being a rural school district, but Bradley Central being more urban within that rural school district, if that makes sense, definitely allowed us comparison to Booker T. Washington. Even when we walked into the hallways, just the smell of the hallways in terms of just kind of the nostalgia, it's very much like Booker T. Washington. And so the programming there it's similar between Walker Valley and Bradley Central, and it works for all students. And so that's what we want to replicate.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ms. Basine?
Thank you, Dr. Pohl and Dr. Garner, for the presentation today. I know we've all been eager to hear about the exciting work that's being done at Booker T. Washington programmatically and otherwise. So I have a couple questions, and I somewhat builds on what Ms. Stone was raising in terms of different populations. And when I mean different populations, I don't only mean, demographically, I mean in terms of support. Like, so Tennessee, as you mentioned, there is a state-supported program. They have to apply to be part of a STEAM implementation school. So in Virginia, obviously, we know that that's not the case. So my concern is around our current plans for strategic staffing, support with the current staff. Like, I'd like to hear more about that, like how supportive the current staff is of the programming. Given the vacancies that we're experiencing in our district, how we are going to support that program. When we talk about equity, we talk about, what kind of strategic staffing methods are we putting in place to make sure that that program, it starts off strong and continues to be strong for however long, which I hope is a long time, that it exists. So
again, I'll start, and Mr. Garner has done some wonderful things on working with his staff, on making sure we have teachers, the right teachers in the right places. But two things I want to mention. One, the Booker T is an EELC, so there's a $2,500 supplement for teachers at Booker T, so that, that will be something that will be a help with staffing. And the second part is that was a big reason why we talked about the phased-in approach, so that we're starting just with 9th grade and then growing it up from 9th grade, so that it's not all staffing all at once, and we don't need all the specialized teachers all at once, but we're growing into that. And Mr. Garner, if you want to talk about the work you've been doing with the faculty on staffing that 9th grade.
Sure. I think one thing, forgive me, Basin? Basin, my apologies. One thing that we saw that at Walker Valley High School and Bradley Central High School was the implementation of the freshman orientation model. Whereas for those schools, there's an actual year of exploration where they're in the freshman academy. And from the freshman academy, they move into their actual career pathway through the STEAM model. That's something that we talked about as a STEAM team, and we felt like, wow, it's really going to work because we see it in action. So that allows us to find the teachers who are interested in training and working with the freshman students just to get them ready for the true high school life in sophomore year, if that makes sense. The Booker Prep course is a course that has 4 modules. One is Booker T 101. That's the history that we're going to ask community members to be a part of designing that curriculum. The second is our leadership and conflict resolution curriculum. That'll be the second 9 weeks. The third 9 weeks is the actual introduction to STEAM. What does it mean to be a STEAM student at Booker T. Washington High School? And the final quarter is the introduction to the career pathways, where after career assessments, field trips, guest speakers, they'll have the opportunity to actually choose the career pathway in which they'll major in their sophomore year. In terms of the staffing for that, there have been teachers who've been requesting to be a part of the STEAM team and a part of the work. And one thing we actually learned that we're kind of moving toward from the steering committee model to the curriculum development implementation model is that we want teachers who are interested in this because it's part of their passion. I might not be a cybersecurity specialist, or I might not be an environmental technologist, but I want students to be successful in a career after graduation. And those will be the teachers that we'll kind of capture first. And then once the rest of the building can kind of see that work through professional development, meetings in-house, industry experts coming in, helping us really kind of meld the work that we do in the building with career pathways and STEAM work, that our goal is to have everyone kind of catch on fire after that. And I will share that one of the things that we're actually doing is making sure that teachers have the opportunity to attend conferences throughout as we continue to progress. So I might not get to a conference in year 1, but by year 3, I would have gone to a conference, attended a workshop that lets me know what the STEAM means for me in my subject area. And then the final piece is we want to make sure that there is curriculum-wide buy-in, if I can use that phrase, where in a social studies class, a world geography class, how are STEAM concepts infused into that class? Or if it's in English 12 British literature class, how do I infuse this into the class? So at some point, every teacher will touch the STEAM work through a lesson, through activities, through guest speakers, through some type of work they're doing in their regular teaching curriculum. So that will allow all of the teachers to have some STEAM integration in their own professional development as a teacher at Booker T.
Okay. Well, that sounds really exciting. So I thank you for that information and background, and it does sound very exciting. The other question I have is, so you talk about AP, having more robust AP and dual enrollment opportunities for our students. And we know historically, Booker T. Washington and Lake Taylor High School have had fewer AP offerings than, some of our other high schools. So I imagine that is, you're building a more robust program around those things, which you said, but, I guess, what are you doing differently now? Because we've always had that, goal to build that program, so.
It's a personal passion of mine to build capacity within the teachers. That was one of the first things that I shared with the faculty and staff when I came in January. And at our first faculty meeting, one of my goals is to build teachers. And in doing that, I'm encouraging master's degrees, I'm encouraging national board certification, I'm encouraging AP certification and training, so that way we can teach at a higher level in order to get the students to be at a higher level in their learning. So we already have a brand new teacher coming in the fall who'll be teaching AP African American history. We have a teacher already in the department who we're slating after some training, some mentoring, some working with. She'll be teaching AP World History next school year. I'm already looking. We have an art. Thanks to Ms. Kenyatta Goshen, we're now allowed to teach the Art 100 class as a dual enrollment course, and we're looking at very talented and mature freshmen and sophomores to enter that class as a freshman in order to drive the idea of having students graduate with an associate's degree in 4 years. And so in order to do that, we're really targeting teachers to be able to be at the level of teaching higher level courses so we can offer those courses. And even now, if I may share, there's I think it's called the I Teach program with Tidewater Community College, and we're encouraging teachers to take some of those courses. I'm even taking a course. And so that starts tomorrow. So I have homework tonight. And so with that being said, we're just doing everything we can to really build the capacity of teachers. And I'll just say that that's one of my passions. And I know if we bring up the teachers, by default, students have to rise to the occasion.
Right. Well, thank you so much for that. I can completely feel your passion for this and appreciate you being there. So thank you. I'm done with my questions.
Okay. Mr. Jordan.
Appreciate the presentation. I guess I just have maybe just some clarifying questions at first. I leaned over to Mr. Clanton because when we worked on the Booker T. Washington STEAM High School resolution motion, I was pulling it up. And the reason I was pulling it up is when I hear the language of the STEAM school working alongside the performing arts, visual and performing arts program, I wasn't sure where that language came from, because my understanding was that we designated Booker T. Washington as a STEAM school, not STEAM program, not STEAM initiative, and that we had the expectation that the existing visual arts program would be incorporated as part of that, thus giving us STEAM. And I will admit that I have my own trauma because of experiences prior to being on the school board and being on the school board where how things are interpreted at the community level, what they are said at the board level, and what is heard and implemented at the staff level. There's no real good history if you're in African American communities where those things seem to align to a positive result. So I'm asking this question because I just want to make sure I'm clear on what does it mean to stand, what was the phraseology that was used? Alongside, that's what it was. What that means. And then I think my larger question / concern is I've been yelled at in many a community around this country, working in historically underserved communities, and almost to a one, what my observation is that that those communities that have those experiences and those traumas are often under-communicated to versus over-communicated to. And so there's a, Dr. John Simpson passed recently, and many of us were at his funeral, and many in the room know one of the last books that Norfolk Public Schools was reading was Literacy with an Attitude, Educating Working Class Children in Their Own Self-Interest. And in that book, it describes how there's a tendency in our existing status quo to have functional or domesticated education for some students, and then other students are giving powerful education where they are prepared and taught to be the CEOs, while others are prepared to be the workers. And I think in our culture, I'm not blaming him, I'm just saying, I just think what exists in our culture is when we talk about equity and equality and so forth, the river has run so deep that oftentimes we just automatically receive I'll call it functional community engagement and not powerful community engagement. And I think because we do that, that raises the level of anxiety that you can hear in the room, and I can tell you I hear it all the time. So in addition to trying to get an understanding of what it means to have the STEAM program alongside the visual arts program when we talked about a STEAM school, the other thing I like to get a better understanding is, with all this work that's been going on, why hasn't that just been shared? I mean, it's like we've been pulling it. It's like on one side of the track, you constantly feel like you have to pull information. And on the other side of the track, you don't have to pull. And I can just speak from my experiences with that because I know from my parents who were Booker T. Washington graduates, that's why exposure was so important to them for their children, because you get to see things, and so it brings a different perspective of what you receive in some places and what you don't receive. So if you can just kind of start with what does alongside mean and how did that come about, and then if you can give some more insight into the community engagement and involvement piece, where I think when we got a presentation in September of last year, we were to get an update in January. It's now June. And oftentimes, and it doesn't start here, just goes back 100 years, that what happens is in initiatives like this that are dealing in schools or communities that are historically on the negative side of the equity equation, is like stuff gets done in a vacuum. It arrives at the last minute. And then when people raise questions and concerns, they're made to feel guilty for raising the question and concerns. And then they're told, well, school is going to start, so we have to do something. And that was Southside STEM had that experience, still trying to get that straight today. I could go down the list, but I just want to try to, whether people like it or not, I just want to try to explain what it's like, generation after generation, to feel that you aren't heard, and when there's opportunities to engage, that there may be the concern or fear in the engagement, which causes all of us as human beings then to kind of go in a vacuum rather than really stepping forward and out there to push through what we have to push through to make sure that the students and the stakeholders and the community really is being brought along in a co-facilitated, co-equal, co-created environment versus we've done this and now here you are?
So I think I've got my 3 points of where you were going, Mr. Jordan. So let me start with the alongside. I think we're kind of splitting hairs on language a little bit there. I want to make it clear that every student who goes into Booker T. Washington High School, whether they're a member of the Fine and Performing Arts Academy or a zone student who's going to Booker T, are going to be engulfed in the STEAM work. And the benefit of having the Fine and Performing Arts Academy there is the A in STEAM across the board. Like Mr. Garner was saying, the dual enrollment arts course is not just for our academy students or our program students. It's going to be for every single student there as well, and how we integrate that in. So alongside doesn't mean they're running alongside. It was just a terminology as we're beginning the program that they are kind of alongside, because we're also only going with 9th grade next year, and then it'll phase in. But the plan is for those to be fully weaved. And really the desires are for the STEAM part of the program to increase the application pool of the Fine and Performing Arts part of the program, because that's the citywide application part. Because as we all know right now, the first 4 years of implementation, we agreed that would be zone students only for Booker T to support the program. The depth of learning is kind of what I wrote in the notes about. I believe your comment is around, some folks, some students, it feels like we're training to be CEOs and some we're training to be laborers, is kind of what came across, and research shows that. This is exactly why we've taken off with the Booker program, with the STEAM program, and when Mr. Garner came on board midway through the year, remember, we also had a principal change, which really rocks the boat on everything that we were doing with STEAM, because if we don't have the leadership and the faculty buy-in, it's us doing unto them, and then it's us shoving a program. And that was the last thing we wanted to do. We needed to have that collaboration and support. And one of the first things they did when Mr. Garner got there and developed his STEAM team at Booker T with his instructional leaders in the building, was to really start researching and saying, what did they want to make sure they're seeing happen? And the first thing they came back and said was, we want this freshman course. We want this 9th grade course because we want to put everybody on the same path. We want to push them for excellence. We want to show them what it's all about. We want to get dual enrollment. The first question Mr. Garner asked me was like, can we have 9th graders take dual enrollment? Why not? If we can make it happen, let's make it happen. We're so close to TCC as well. We've even talked about how can we expand the offerings at Booker T to include more dual enrollment, because we want to increase the rigor, and we want our rising 9th graders in the STEAM program to really see their opportunity and develop their career pathway based on their interests, because if they're interested in the learning, they're gonna do better, and they're gonna create that pathway. And we also want to make sure there's pathways for that student who says, hey, I want to be a CEO, or hey, I want to go career route right away. We want to make sure that there's offerings for all the students. And the excitement right now in building this is very powerful. And I think you see it in Mr. Garner when he speaks. And he's getting ready to shove me off the mic. I just want to let you know that right now. He's taking several notes as well. And then I do want to speak to as far as the communications part. And I want to go back to, we had a principal shift. And I know our original plan was to come back to the community in the board in January. We simply weren't ready because we had that shift in principals, and we didn't have the full buy-in at the building level at that point about developing this committee and developing the program. And now we do, and there's a lot of excitement. And they really drove the retreat that they had. It was literally, they had teachers come back after school, the week after school, for 3 days to come and work still. Now, we did pay them. We had budgeting for it, but that's the excitement that they have on building a real successful program. And I wasn't here when the other school you mentioned opened, Mr. Jordan, but I can't imagine a faculty and a principal with this much excitement right now, and the supports that we're trying to give around everything here, that we're not going to see a shift in instructional practice, and within 4 years, a shift in really what it means to go to Booker T. Washington High School.
I guess it was last year sometime, there was a group of stakeholders, and Norfolk Public Schools had successfully recruited folks from Norfolk State, EVMS, WHRO, had alumni, students, staff. Whatever happened to that group, and what conversations have you had with Norfolk State University and the assets that they have down the street from Booker T.
So we are still in conversation with Norfolk State University, and specifically with their cybersecurity as well, and actually with future educators. We've been talking about that as well, and connections. We just actually, we're still trying to currently work on a lab school application to connect with them as well, which would be with feeder schools that go to Booker T. Washington High School as well. So still very involved with conversations.
Yeah, I just like to encourage, I've read the lab school application. But one of the things that was talked about, and just understand, for me, in 2017, the board voted to make Booker T a STEAM school. So, and part of what we talked about then was the linkages with Norfolk State. And there was a, Greater Broad Creek has a plan, and it's had Booker T and the schools in Norfolk State as an anchor. St. Paul's plan, and so I just want to encourage somehow that that moving forward, there's so much knowledge and talent right in the backyard. And if we can find ways of engaging with it and connecting with it, it can save us a lot of time and energy and effort. And, and I'll admit I have served on in the past Norfolk State having various National Science Foundation grants where they've had collaboration with actually Booker T and Norfolk in Portsmouth, and where they've been trying to build this pipeline for our students. And I just want to encourage that we find ways of breaking out of that river and maybe dam it up and try to shift it in another way, because it's I think it would be helpful. Don't stop here. I think this presentation is great, and what you all are doing is great, and I'm excited to hear about it. Please take this out to the community, the broader community, all of the community, and share what you're doing, and be amenable to hearing concerns and recommendations that come forward. Because I know we've got people mention Maury. I know we've got a meeting at Maury that's coming up. If we have this great, wonderful, engaging, exhibiting discussion and presentation at Maury, and we can't show where we are doing likewise with other schools, the Norfolk narrative continues. And I don't like the Norfolk narrative. So if we're ever going to get away from that, I think we have to be intentional about doing things differently and demonstrating it. Otherwise, no one will ever believe you can roll out the streets of gold and people will believe that it's fool's gold, because that has been the pattern. And so if we talk about equity, which I agree with, it's okay when we have equity discussions in Norfolk that those that have been historically on the negative side be on the positive side for 40, 50, 60 years, and not be on the negative side and then somebody say, oh, we're going to put you on the positive side for a year. Aren't you satisfied? The answer is no, because we've been 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 years on the negative side. The goodwill effort is appreciated, but the goodwill effort needs to stay in place far beyond all of us who are in this room. And if we don't do it intentionally, when we have board turnover and superintendent turnover and initiative turnover and ed planning this and all that, that status quo stays in place, and the folks that have been receiving that functional literacy continue to receive functional literacy. The powerful literacy is never completed. And I just think we have an opportunity to set it differently from 2024 moving forward in what we do here. So thank you for considering me.
Ms. Basine?
Yeah. Mr. Jordan, if I may, and very briefly, I do want to try to touch on your point. I was taking some notes here. Just to kind of further clarify the idea of the academy being alongside the STEAM work, that was actually one of our major topics during the retreat. Mr. Elliot Fisher, who's the new chair of our Fine Arts Department, we had that conversation. And the difference between the academy and the A in STEAM is that the academy is for those students who are interested in the purity of the arts. I enjoy music because I like music, but I want to be a doctor. I enjoy dancing because I love to dance, but I tend to be a lawyer. And that allows them to be able to engage in the scholarly aspect of the arts, regardless of the area. When we look at STEAM, the A in STEAM, it doesn't deny those students who are in the academy to go along a particular career pathway, and vice versa. Those who are in the cybersecurity pathway to be able to be in the Arts Academy. But the A in STEAM talks about the commercial need for art. When we think of art, we think about a painting or a sculpture. We never really think about the graphic design on the side of an airplane. That's art. We never think about the graphic design on the side of a ship. That's art. And so when we look at STEAM, it's applying and providing those skills for students to be able to enter into the graphic arts and design, to study music, technology, and engineering for commercial gain, as opposed to just the purity of the academy. And whereas we want students to be able to dance on Broadway and go to Juilliard and attend musicals and perform in those musicals, that might not necessarily be the goal of the academy. Whereas the goal of STEAM is to have those babies, and they're all my babies, to be employable or enrolled in a program that will allow them to be able to be financially secure going forward. So that's the difference. And it's not that the academy is not a part of STEAM, because it is, because students are allowed to be able to register in the courses and all of that. But we have to remember the academy is a selective process. There's an application, there's an audition. And we want to be able to maintain that solidarity, as well as offer some of those courses to students who may not be in the academy. So when we say standalone, we want to be able to honor the academy for what it is, an academy that allows the scholarly pursuits of the arts. So that's the standalone piece, not denying the arts as a part of STEAM, but looking at the difference between the purity of the arts versus the commercial gain from being in the arts field. My second response is, you talked about the idea of the functional versus being powerful communication, and I totally agree. And I shared two things with that. The first is that I'm a product, not of Norfolk Public Schools, but I'm a product of the culture of Norfolk. I am the sole child of a single parent, of a mother who got pregnant in high school, who graduated with me in her belly, and who relied heavily on her parents to help her raise her son as a single parent. And that's me sharing that I understand the idea and the culture and the need for exposure as a parent myself of two African-American girls who are in an intersection of oppression, being women and being black, and an autistic son. So I understand not just the idea of doing things for the sake of doing them, and you're correct, that we are moving toward the goodwill effort, that we're making this intentional work that will gather roots and that will sustain itself beyond my years at Booker T. Washington. I plan to be there for a while. I'm getting gray hair, but I'm going to be there for a while, right? But it just helps us to kind of sustain the work that's being done, because it's extremely intentional. And because the communication piece is important, as we're beginning to develop our EELC, our Excellence and Equity Learning Center, we have an upcoming presentation to the community that will talk about how the work we do as an EELC will incorporate our STEAM work. And that is important because I preached a sermon years ago about salting the water. My grandma, she would put salt in her water, season in the water to prepare her cooking, and we have to fortify the environment. So we have to help the parents and the families and the grandmas and the big aunties in order to make sure they're well informed and well prepared to help their students. And so I do agree with you that if this has been an initiative before January the 8th, which is when I began, that why we're just now hearing the updates, no disrespect. The difference is I'm the difference. That's why. and that I want to make sure that our communities are informed, and that you all are informed, and that we're all working together, because it's bigger than Booker T. It's Norfolk Public Schools. Because the one thing we learned is that the high schools that were involved in STEAM in Tennessee, they reached down to the middle schools, and they reached down to the elementary schools. And through the ELC model, I mean, we have PB Young and Jaycox and Fleming that are all vertically aligned to us. So we have to all work together. So it's bigger than our building at 1111 Park Avenue. It's all of us. And so, I definitely agree with you that the communication and the intent is going to be more than just baseline, not doing it just to do it. It's going to be intentional because I want it to be intentional, and that's how we're going to make sure that it happens.
Yeah. Just have just one final comment. I appreciate that, and I speak slow like this because I'm intentionally controlling my feelings and my emotions.
Sure.
I appreciate everything that you said. I just want to, since we haven't met yet, haven't had a chance to talk yet, because I told you I would give you a break, give you time to get your feet under you. I just want to give you some context for me personally, which we normally say board members don't do, but I feel the need to do that. So, my mother helped start the computer science program at Norfolk State. She taught math there 31 years. And so the optical engineering program, the cybersecurity, I have a meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock with the Norfolk State Research Innovation Foundation. I'm just simply trying to say that when I heard you say, and I just know words are important and they matter, and so I'm just trying to encourage us to be careful with our words, because like I heard alongside, and it triggered something.
Sure,
okay?
sure.
When I hear STEAM and preparing children for employment, that triggers something, because I believe we talk about career and college ready. So I'm telling you what I
didn't mean to be defensive, but he
No,
did
no.
say more than that.
I'm just my
3 E's, right?
My point is that we have there's no other high school in Norfolk that has the academic assets in proximity to it that Booker T. Washington has. And just as Booker T. is often undervalued and appreciated, so is Norfolk State. And for that matter, my alma mater on the other side of the water, Hampton.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to encourage in your environmental scan. I know, I didn't talk about EVMS and ODU, but in your environmental scan, you probably have within 30 minutes of you 2 schools that produce more African American engineers, optical engineers, folks with master's degrees, educators right here in the backyard. And so I just want to say that keep doing what you're doing, but please recognize that those diamonds that are in our backyards, and be able to speak to the aspirations that that folks a generation ago just thought would never exist for their children. And I'll say this also. I also have the experience of, a long time ago when the internet and computers, I had people tell me, oh, well, black children don't need computers. I had experience as a child, as a high school student, have an older brother. He's an electrical engineer, I'm a software engineer. Both of us went through a school and the guidance counselor told us we didn't need to take math, even though they knew my mother was a math professor. Those types of things still exist today. And so I'm just trying to encourage that we have the type of zeal and passion and commitment to not only do this, but to break and disrupt and dismantle these patterns that have existed, so that we can all celebrate that together. And just in my experience, those words matter, because I promise you everything that's said here, everybody's going to write down.
Right.
And they're going to come back to you tomorrow.
Right.
And if you go give a presentation and you say something different, that's going to become the focus. And I don't want that to be the focus. I want the great things that that you're proposing to do to be the focus. So,
My last point, and then I'm going to take my seat.
Okay, yes, because we're
Yeah, it's
running
late,
out
yes.
of time. Yeah.
I just want to share this with you, Mr. Jordan. I appreciate that because one of the things that our team is going to do is that we want to partner with Norfolk State, ODU, Virginia Wesleyan, the area foundations because of the proximity. For that very, very reason. One thing, if you noticed, the maritime and aerospace career pathways were added because we're in the water.
Hello.
We have that talent in our backyard, so why not access that? Aerospace, Wallops Island is an hour and a half away. Langley is 30 minutes away. So why not access that? And so I definitely agree with you. And I understand what you mean in terms of, as a graduate of an HBCU, and I hope to be at Norfolk State as an adjunct in the fall. I'm working on that right now as we speak. So I'm doing that all with purpose to be able to get on the inside so I can get what they got. And so I think it's important. And then my last piece is I'm going to need you to help me get a part of those conversations so that I can be in those meetings with you. So I wrote this down, and like you said, I'm going to hold you to the fire.
you don't have to worry about that. Bring it on.
So I'm going to quickly, Ms. Basine, quickly, and Dr. Martin.
I'll yield to Dr. Martin since she.
Dr. Martin?
Hi. I just want to say, whenever when Principal Garner was on the docket for hiring, I was very impressed with what I saw on paper. And today I want to tell you I'm very impressed in what I see in person. And a program like this, like most of our programs, they need good leadership, and I'm really happy to see that you're at the helm.
Awesome. Ms. Basine?
Yeah. Yes, very quickly. I concur with what my colleague has said here. And, I do also want to support what Mr. Jordan has said so eloquently and, hit the nail on the head. Because, I've been sitting here kind of, what triggers for me is and my colleagues that have been alongside me for the last many years knows that when I hear not everybody's going to college, gets under my skin like nothing else, because it has historically been a choice that the system has made for children and not the other way around. And so I personally, if that is their choice for career, fantastic. But every student should have access to a college education, and these partnerships with TCC, Norfolk State, Hampton, we are very lucky to have these institutions right here. And, I expect to see that kind of collaboration going forward. And if there are any barriers or anything we can do to accelerate that process, I think, I know we would all help support that. So
Absolutely.
just wanted to say that.
And I appreciate that, and I want to reiterate, one of the things I've shared with the board over the past is a goal of mine, is that every student who graduates has either an AP or dual enrollment course, so they know they can do it.
That's a division-wide goal.
Definitely. And Madam Chair, I know you're about to kind of wrap it up in there.
Well, I got to go to 5.03, Title I.
Yeah, but I'd like to just make one clarifying thing.
Go
here.
ahead, Ms. Clancy.
I know that I said that every student is not going to go to college. I said that because that's true. And the fact of the reality is, when I went through school, was push to go to college. All these other opportunities were not presented. My nephew graduated early last year with a 3.9 GPA, and he's going in the Merchant Marines. I asked him, what you want to do? He said, Uncle C, going to college right now is not what I want to do. I want to go and work. There are many roads to scholarship, and I don't want us to ever negate the opportunity that we plant the seed into someone that's saying that because you want to go to military right now doesn't mean that you can't go back in and go to school.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's not, I think what we're preparing to do is provide opportunity. And I agree in the respect that we remove barriers so that whatever our students want to do, they've got the opportunity to do it. And that takes it from the board level to the community, making sure that kids get what they need. So I appreciate that, and that's all I got to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that as well. We all have different skills, talents, and abilities that lead us, to whatever our future beholds. So we're going to move on to, because the hour is getting away from us. I'm sorry.
Are we voting on this?
No, this was just a report, information. So we're going to move quickly to 5.03. It was requested to remove Title I and II grants from the consent agenda. So I'm going to open that up. So, Mr. Jordan, since you requested, I'm going to ask you to start.
Yeah, I just want, maybe kind of picking up on the theme we just left off. I appreciate the work that went into the title preparation. I appreciate the answers and responses to the questions that I had. My unreadiness is largely around two areas, and this is not new. You can go watch every title presentation, at least that I've been a part of. I always will ask the question about what did we accomplish with last year's money, and what are we going to do with this year's money, and how do we build off of it? And I'm just concerned that I don't see in the application, and I think it was probably the Title II application, where it was describing the collaboration between academics and human resources. The human resources study that was done suggested that there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So for me, when I read this year's application and read last year's application, read the previous year's application, and it had the same language, that's why it caught my attention. The other reason why it caught my attention is you all know I always ask about the goals that are established, in particular now with the comprehensive school improvement plans. And so it's still unclear to me whether or not the SMART goals that are in those plans, to what extent they are treated as real measurables, whether or not they're just aspirational, whether or not anybody is held accountable to achieve them. And so I'm not satisfied that we are meeting the spirit of the non-negotiable around that. And so I think if we had time, and I would recommend to my board colleagues that we would ask the administration to consider going back and being more robust in those descriptions and in that alignment, I would. But the other thing that resonates with me, one of the main areas I was asking questions about was whether or not the priority of the schools that are in the comprehensive school improvement, when it comes to staffing, whether or not we were saying we were making that next step towards truly prioritizing the placement of highly effective teachers, or whatever language that they use in the application, not just providing opportunities for those that need to get certified or pass whatever test they need to pass to get there, but literally saying, Johnny is a qualified teacher. Johnny is right now at another school that doesn't have the same needs as this school, and we're going to go ask, incentivize, do whatever it takes to put Johnny in front of the students that need Johnny the most. And if you look at the latest human resources report that we have, some of those same schools that are identified in the title applications as being an improvement school and being in great need have some of the largest and continuing largest vacancies in their schools. And so that's why I wanted to pull it, because I can't support something that I don't think is truly giving us a clear indication that we are going to use these resources to not have schools like Coleman Place with 13 vacancies, and Jaycox with 13, and Lake Taylor School with 10, Ruffner 11, Southside STEM 11, Norview Middle 18, Lake Terror High 19, Booker T 12, and just, like I said a moment ago, and just allow that to be the status quo for another generation of children. So I wanted to be able to explain that, which I couldn't do as part of the consent agenda. So thank you.
And just real briefly, Mr. Jordan, with the Title II language, the Title II grant is to support professional learning, so it can't support what you'd like it to support in that avenue. So the most we can do with Title II is support the professional learning to make sure the teachers that are there get fully endorsed. So that's what we're trying to do to support that work with Title II. So I understand what you're saying, but that's what we're allowable to do with Title II to support that work.
That's why I pulled the 1 and 2 together, because I think it could be greater synergy, but I'm not the expert, just telling you what my assessment is.
I appreciate that.
Okay, is there any other questions around Title I and II grants?
No, but
You have comment?
I just want to share that I also share Mr. Jordan's concerns and supportive.
All right, with that said, may I have a motion to approve the Title I and II grants?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the Title I and II grants.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Clanton. May
I second.
Dr. Martin, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Lynch, please call the roll.
Ms. Basine?
Nay.
Mr. Clanton?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Nay.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Stone?
Aye.
Ms. Buffalo?
Aye. Well, everyone, thank you all for your patience again, and but we got a lot accomplished this evening, so I appreciate all of you. So with nothing else said, this meeting is adjourned.